Hey there folks, this is Pop Culture, I'm Alex Pop, and Jurassic World Dominion is now 11 days into its shoot in the UK, and after the 4-month shutdown due to the persisting virus, things seem to be going so far so good again. Director Colin Trevorrow even came forward to say that the shutdown worked in the movie's favor. For many of us, Dominion was already the biggest creative challenge of our lives before the lockdown. The shooting schedule really worked to our advantage. The first 4 weeks we put to film were mostly sequences with dinosaurs in them, so that allowed us to get a head start on VFX and workshop some of the newer elements without the pressure of a looming deadline. And though that statement was very reassuring to us, it was 4 days into the shoot when some Jurassic Park fans went into panic mode when The Sun UK reported that filming was being halted again because multiple crew members caught the virus as soon as they arrived. However, others, including myself, recognized The Sun as a tabloid magazine and noted that the source they gave was completely non-specific. And sure enough, the report was quickly shot down by Universal. And we can confirm that things are going as according to plan because Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard have both taken to Twitter to talk about how joyed they are to be working with each other again. And Howard has showed off some really awful looking bruises that she's gotten from all her stunt work. So with the production rebounding and the cast and crew seeming to be completely undeterred by the 4-month delay in filming, it highlights the question of if we'll be seeing this movie in June of next year after all. I said the odds were very slim a month after production was halted. Then when it was announced that the movie would be one of the first to resume filming, I said there was an inkling of hope. Now I think I can say there's a very decent chance that on June 11th, we'll see not just the movie, but the best non-rushed version of it. Just be aware that's still uncertain. So now to get into the meat of the video, this is about some information that comes to us from BioSyn of Jurassic World fandom on Twitter. He is apparently in contact with someone who claims to have some inside knowledge about things we'll see in the movie. Now when BioSyn first posted that he would be sharing some leaked info soon, I asked him if there would be any potentially major plot points coming, and he assured me that there was nothing earth-shattering. However, if you don't want to know any potential details before we get our first footage, now would be the time to click away. BioSyn has also made a point in saying that you should take this information with a grain of salt, and I can concur with that, because one of the first things that he posted says that the arid icy regions are part of the second and third acts, probably the basis of BioSyn. This I can say with confidence is not accurate. Based on the 2 screenshots we've seen of Macy wandering around alone, it's clear to me that what they filmed so far in the snowy region is the first act. Now granted, in an aerial shot that we've seen of the Pinewood studio set during the shutdown, frozen in amber as Sam Neill put it, there is a snowy mountain background being used, which probably indicates that there are parts after the first act that take place in a snowy location, and I will be coming back to this photograph before the end of the video. However, I don't see the majority of the second and third acts taking place in such a climate, especially since Pinewood Studios appears to be using a lot of dry forest right now. However, this info did come from a repost of something that BioSyn posted earlier before the announcement that BioSyn would be in the movie, and that Campbell Scott would be replacing Cameron Thor as Lewis Dodson. Now, a lot of fans were suspecting that BioSyn could be in the movie, but since this source did get BioSyn right, I think it's fair to say that there could be some truth to what follows. So some additional details in that first post give us a list of dinosaurs that are in BioSyn's possession. These are Therizinosaurus, Giganotosaurus, a Pyroraptor that has feathers, Dinocus, Dimetrodon, Microceratus, and Spinosaurus. So the mention of Therizinosaurus and Giganotosaurus will certainly excite most fans, but not more so than the Spinosaurus, which is the #1 dinosaur that fans want most for this next movie. Now, I'm not totally hyped about this because I can't help but feel like the only reason they would bring back Spinosaurus is to have it lose in a rematch with the T-Rex, and while that is what a lot of fans out there want, I really don't think it's a good idea. As I've said before, after Jurassic World already made up for what Jurassic Park 3 did by having the T-Rex bust through the Spinosaurus skeleton and take down the I-Rex, having a rematch between the T-Rex and the Spinosaurus at this point in the series would just be full-blown overkill. Now, if they do avoid giving in to fan demands too much and utilize the dinosaur in a different way, then I'm not at all against the Spinosaurus showing up in the movie. On the positive side of things, Dimetrodon would certainly add some variety, since it's not actually a dinosaur, but a sail-finned reptile. And I would be most excited to see the Microceratus, a very unique-looking miniature ceratopsian that is among Colin Trevorrow's favorite dinosaurs. I could see those dinosaurs being great as pets, and it would be very nice to see Macy finding some therapy in the company of one or two of those little critters. Though as of right now, I would lean toward that role going to the Nasutoceratops hatchling that we've seen. Now, to go back to some of the things that I'm a bit skeptical on, one would be the description of the Pyroraptor. And while this is an opinion that has ruffled some people's feathers, I'm not too keen on the idea of feathered dinosaurs being in this movie. I get that other corporations may use bird DNA to complete a dinosaur's genetic code, but I just don't want to see dinosaurs that are so ridden with feathers that you can't even distinguish them as dinosaurs. Now, the Pyroraptor is featured in the Jurassic World Alive game app, and if the dinosaur is in the movie, I'd say that this design is most likely what we'd see. It's not the worst design in the game, that would definitely go to the Ornithomimus, but I think we'd have a better looking design if they give it a trim, to about the same amount of feathers as the Tanicolagrius in the game. As for the Dinocus, I was at first indifferent when I read that species name on the post. In a series where every movie has featured velociraptors engineered to be the size of Dinocus, I just couldn't see how actual Dinocus would stand out enough. But then a few days later, some further information came out on Jurassic World Fandom's Twitter that I was not very thrilled to hear. It says that the Allen Raptors from JP3 will be seen in this movie in captivity by BioSyn. They were taken from Isla Sorna, obviously before Jurassic World was open, as all the remaining dinosaurs on Sorna were transported to Nublar to be featured in the park. Now, there are very evident reasons that some dinosaurs of a particular species might look different from other dinosaurs of that species, perhaps variations based on male and female, and different animals being used to complete a dinosaur's genetic code. And yet, for some reason, if this source is true, the writers have seen the need to reveal that these velociraptors from Jurassic Park 3 were not velociraptors all this time, but Dinocus. This would not make me happy. The raptors in JP3 had the vocal sounds of Velociraptor, sounds that are just too iconic to give to another species no matter how closely related they are. It would be like introducing Tarbosaurus or Gorgosaurus and just giving them the T-Rex roar. It wouldn't make any sense. Now, the Baryonyx did have some similarities in its roar to that of the Spinosaurus being closely related, but it wasn't exactly the same. I just don't see any sense at all in retconning the Allen Raptors to be Dinocus, so hopefully this is one piece of information that's not accurate. And speaking of various designs for one species, Jurassic World fandom sources say that one of the commonly reappearing dinosaurs in the series that we'll see once again in Jurassic World Dominion is the Stegosaurus. Specifically, though, Stegosaurs that have the design of the ones we see in the Lost World. I guess this would be one little way of them trying to evoke feelings of the first trilogy, but when I read this information, I didn't mind that much. I just kind of shrugged and went, alright, cool. Another post on Jurassic World fandom gives us 3 more new species. One is Dreadnoughtus, just as teased at the end of Fallen Kingdom, making it the single biggest dinosaur in the series if this source is true. The second is Plesiosaurus, another aquatic creature, which I imagine we'd see in a gigantic tank at a BioSyn facility, and I think it would be really cool to see. And finally, a completely made-up yet non-hybrid dinosaur called Excavaraptor. This is most interesting because the Excavaraptor originated in the John Sayles version of Jurassic Park 4, a movie that frankly I'm glad was never made, because the script contains some of the dopiest ideas that have ever been humored for a JP story. In a vacuum, however, I think the concept of raptors that have the ability to dig through the ground like a mole is kinda cool. I also like the idea of making up a few kinds of dinosaurs, because obviously not every dinosaur that ever was is in the fossil record as we know it, so it should stand to reason that should we bring dinosaurs back to life, we would bring back a few kinds of dinosaurs not previously discovered. It's sort of a similar deal to making new discoveries about dinosaurs that we did know about, which is why I really love the depiction of the Dilophosaurs in this franchise. Now, even with all these new species that could potentially be in the next movie, they do still need to dedicate some screen time to some dinosaurs that have had limited appearances before, that deserve some more time in the spotlight, such as Dilophosaurus and Ceratosaurus. Now to move on to a few more details, the source also briefly describes a certain action sequence in the movie. In keeping with Hollywood's everlasting love of destroying aircraft, there will be a sequence where a cargo plane with dinosaurs on board crashes into the snow. This takes us back to that aerial shot of the set, where in the center, there does seem to be remnants of plane underneath all those tarps in front of the snowy mountain. So this bit of information I can almost say for certain is accurate, and it certainly sounds like one sweet sequence. What I imagine will happen is that Claire, Owen, Grant, and Sattler will secretly board that plane, believing that it will take them to Macy's whereabouts, and during the flight, chaos ensues and it crashes. And one small detail involving BioSyn is that we will learn at some point that the company is selling dinosaurs on the black market. It makes sense that BioSyn would do this, I just hope that it's something that's merely mentioned, since we already got several scenes in Fallen Kingdom dedicated to dinosaurs being illegally sold. And this last piece of info might just be the one that I'm excited for most, so I saved best for last. Just a heads up, this is not a spoiler per se, but still potentially a bombshell. As I predicted a few videos back, the source says that we will see the cryocan from the first movie in a flashback sequence. That in particular really excites me because it would tie up that small loose end that's been left hanging all these years since the first movie. This does seem highly likely to be true because one of their next shooting locations is the island of Oahu, which has stood in for Isla Nublar ever since the first movie, and so since Isla Nublar is dead, the only reason to use that island again would be for a flashback scene. And if it does turn out to be true, when this movie hits DVD, I might have to do like a montage of everything that I correctly predicted in this movie. So what do you make of this information? Do you think any of it is true? And how much of it sounds good to you? Whatever it be, let me know in the comments, and be sure to follow Jurassic World Fandom on Twitter. Link is in the description. For me, as of right now, I'm iffy on the Spinosaurus, Dinocus, and Pyroraptor, but what excites me the most is the possibility of seeing Microceratus and the Barbasol, and the high probability that there will be an action sequence with dinos on a plane. Too bad Samuel Jackson's character didn't live long enough to have it with that. That's a wrap, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and share, subscribe for more. This is Pop Culture, I'm Alex Pop, and I cannot wait for Jurassic World Dominion.